everyone. Welcome to Crime in Court. My name is Heather, and this is another episode in the Canton Cover Up series, Commonwealth versus Karen Reed. And this is actually a kind of a breaking news episode. So there's three things we're going to cover today, and that is Tully is rehomed, DA spokesperson resigns, and the Commonwealth goes fishing. So, we're going to talk about all three of those in today's episode. Please hit that like button before we begin. And also, I have a quick little housekeeping note. So, I owe you a couple episodes for the Canton Cover Up series. There have been a lot of news updates and breaking news and a lot of things going on in all of the cases that I'm covering. And Karen Reed was one of them. So I owe you since my last video, there's been a filing from the Commonwealth to the SJC basically saying why they don't think Karen Reed should be acquitted of charges 1 and 3. Because that's what her appeal is about. So I'll read through that in an upcoming episode. And also, I have the third Mark Butterow letter, which basically shows that there was definitely some misconduct going on by the DA's office and some particular lieutenants who we're going to be talking about in this episode. So, meaning Brian Tully. So that's kind of leading up to where we are now. It's interesting that the Betterow letters just went out this week or were released to the public this week, and very shortly after, Brian Tully is being quote unquote rehomed, just like Chloe. Um, so yeah, so let's get started with. All right, sorry, let's get started. So here is an article from the Boston Globe from Tanya Alanas, and she says more fallout from Karen Reed trial. State police remove unit commander in Norfolk DA's office. So that's a picture of Tully, then where he was testifying at the um, Karen Reed trial. This is John O'Keefe's shoe that was missing, or one of them. I don't know. All right. So Fallout, he was found with one shoe on and one shoe off. So one was missing. I don't know which one that is, but all right. So it says he was showing a sneaker found at 34 Fairview that matches the one taken off of John O'Keefe at the hospital. So that was the one that was found there. So that clears that up. All right, so fallout from the Karen Reed homicide trial continues to shake up Massachusetts State Police, specifically the detective unit assigned to the Norfolk District Attorney's Office, who announced the removal of the unit's commander on Friday. So Tully headed the unit of detectives that oversaw or included Yuri Buchanan and Michael Proctor. So any reports or anything that Michael Proctor was turning in for the Karen Reed, John O'Keefe investigation, he would turn them over to Brian Tully. Brian Tully signed off on everything and turned it over to the DA saying, here's good to go, and you go ahead and prosecute Karen Reed, even though, yeah, there was no probable cause. But anyways, so fallout from yeah, so there's severe fallout from all of this. Detective Lieutenant Brian Tully, who is under internal investigation by state police, no longer will lead the agency's investigators assigned to Norfolk District Attorney Michael Morrissey's office. Tully's removal was announced Friday evening, along with a notification that there is a vacancy for his position. So there you go. If you want to, if you have any desire to go make the MSP better, and you have the experience, I highly recommend you go and apply. We don't need any Tully number twos to be in getting in this position. All right, so Tully has been temporarily assigned to the MSP Division of Investigative Services, an agency spokesperson said. So that makes me think, since they say he's been temporarily assigned to this other office, this is kind of what they did to Michael Proctor. I don't know if it was this particular division, but I remember them moving him to a different division, and that was shortly thereafter, about a week later, he was suspended without pay, which he currently still is. So I think that's the next step for Brian Tully, is suspended without pay while they continue to look into not only his misconduct in the Karen Reed case, but also in the Aiden Carney Turtle Boy case, and trying to persecute Turtle Boy, basically weaponizing the law and using his ability to manipulate witnesses and things like that to get Turtle Boy. He definitely was doing some very nefarious things in that case. All right, so the state police's handling of the investigation into the January 29th, 2022 death of a Boston police officer, John O'Keefe, has drawn intense scrutiny. O'Keefe's girlfriend, Reed, has been charged with the homicide, along with leaving a scene of an accident where, there was bodily harm or someone who was deceased. And she's the other charges are, first, originally she was only charged for manslaughter, then they upped it to second degree homicide, which is what they were trying to get her on, which is crazy. I think they just wanted her to plead. All right, so Tully was one of the three state police detectives who testified at Reed's high-profile trial and subsequently became the subjects of internal affairs investigation. So remember, there was also Sergeant Buchanan and Proctor, but Fanning was another who they mentioned. Fanning in the very beginning, John Fanning, who was the lead investigator or the head investigator in the Sandra Birchmore case. And he also oversaw the jury in the Karen Reed case. So a little bit of conflict of interest there. But anyways, so yeah, but then like that same night that they announced John Fanning being under internal affairs investigations, they took it back and said, nope, he was found to not have anything yeah, it was unsubstantiated or something, whatever the claim was, whatever the findings were. I can't remember the exact term, but something along those lines. Like, well, we just didn't find enough to get him this time. So, all right, so Tully's removal and the vacancy signal further changes from the embattled state police, who early swore in a new leader earlier this month, the first from outside the department's ranks. The agency has been marred by scandals, fraud convictions, and this summer's loss of the life of a recruit. I don't know why they don't name him here. Enrique Delgado Garcia, who lost his life during a training exercise, or so they say, even though there's these rumors that they have these fight nights. All right, so at his October 4th swearing in ceremony, Colonel Jeffrey D. Noble vowed to work to build public trust in the beleaguered institution. So he's saying that he's going to try to get the public trust back. We'll see. Maybe this is a start. So, in Friday's statement announcing Tully's removal, a state police spokesman said Colonel Noble has conducted an initial review and believes this decision is in the best. Why? Okay. Blah, 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 blah. I'm sorry. I'm getting really tongue-tied. Colonel Noble has conducted an initial review and believes this decision is in the best interest of the department's public safety mission. I don't know why that was so hard for me. All right, Noble, 51, a retired New Jersey State Police lieutenant colonel, takes over the reins of an agency that's undermined itself for years through a range of scandals, from overtime theft, which is still happening, to fraud involving commercial driver's licenses, which they just got busted by the Attorney General uh, mon- uh, earlier this year for a bunch of commercial driver's licenses. There were officers that were taking favors and services in exchange for these commercial driver's licenses. All right, so Reed's controversial and divisive homicide case has also taken its toll on the agency, specifically the detective unit at the Norfolk District Attorney's Office. What do you mean it's taken a toll on them? Uh, they're they're the ones that have been improper, and I don't know why the phrasing just really bothers me. It's taking a toll on them. Like, oh, Karen Reed, she really has worn out those cops or something. She's going through them one by one and trying to like get rid of them. Like, no, they deserve to be gotten rid of. They did what they did on their own. Has nothing to do with Reed, but okay. Tully and two of the detectives he supervised, Trooper Michael Proctor and Sergeant Yuri Buchanan, testified at the trial. Proctor's testimony became a centerpiece of the trial. We all remember it was awful. After he was required to read crude and misogynistic text messages that he sent to coworkers and friends about Reed. Proctor's testimony drew immediate criticism, including from Governor Maura Healey, and it played in part to the defense theory that Reed's case was mismanaged, involved a police cover up, and that Proctor was a biased investigator. Soon after a mistrial was declared on July 1st, state police began internal investigations of Tully, Proctor, and Buchanan. Proctor was relieved of his duty and later suspended without pay. He remains under investigation. The trial also cost the state police more than $250,000, largely from overtime pay, as troopers provided security outside a Dedham courthouse for more than 2 months during this high profile case. And um, they just released that info. I can't remember what it was, but it was something like hundreds of thousands of dollars in overtime being paid to these officers that are standing security in front of the courthouse. During regular business hours, they're being charged, or they are charging overtime for their time. Makes no sense to me. Anyways, the costs were also accrued in pay to troopers and civilian employees for the time they spent testifying in court and preparing, according to the Globe. Proctor was paid $835.90 for his time on the stand, plus $313.46 more for his preparation, according to state police. A retrial is scheduled for January, so that gives you a little insight as to, yeah, troopers get paid to testify on the stand. And I mean, it's a good chunk of cash, I guess. So I thought that was interesting. What do you guys think about that? All right. So, um, hold on. Where's my the Massachusetts State Police did put out a statement. So here is the statement about Lieutenant Brian Tully. Norfolk County State Police Detective Unit Commander Update, October 18th, 2024. The Massachusetts State Police has posted a vacancy for the position of Unit Commander of the State Police Detective Unit assigned to the Norfolk County District Attorney's Office. Colonel Noble has conducted an initial review and believes this decision is in the best interest of the department's public safety mission. So it's for the best, for the safety of the public to get Tully and other crooked cops off the street. Yeah, I agree. The unit commander oversees approximately 20 state troopers who investigate unattended deaths, narcotics, and organized crime, SA, and abuse, larceny, and related financially motivated crimes. Where was it? The unit also includes a digital evidence analysis lab, processes digital evidence, such as computers and cell phones from federal, state, and local law enforcement agencies. Hold on. Sorry, it was going to get loud for a second there. So. All right, so the position was previously held by Detective Lieutenant Brian Tully, who transitioned to a temporary assignment in the Division of Investigative Services. Temporary, meaning I don't think he's staying there long. Detective Lieutenant Tully will continue to be available to assist the Norfolk County District Attorney's Office with any cases in which he was previously involved. So anything he was overseeing, they're transitioning him out while um, they're gonna make him continue working on the cases that he is working on while they transition him out, while they phase him out, I think. Detective Lieutenant Tully remains the subject of an ongoing investigation, internal affairs investigation. So, yeah, that's all they say. They don't even say anything about, like, why, nothing. They barely mention Tully. It's more about the position itself is vacant. We want someone to fill it, is kind of how I took that. All right, so the next topic that I want to go over is our next story, which is about the spokesperson for Michael Morrissey's office. So, this is our new spokesperson, the gentleman you're seeing on the screen. That is David Linton. So, Veteran Sun Chronicle police reporter takes post with Norfolk County DA. This is a Sun Chronicle staff article. So, David Linton, this guy, the Sun Chronicle's award winning police, fire, and court reporter for almost 40 years, has accepted a job as spokesperson for Norfolk County District Attorney Morrissey. And if you're wondering what happened to the person in that job, that person just resigned. And they don't really mention him in this article. But I mean, I guess that's because this is from the Sun and they're highlighting that he got this job. So basically, David Traub is the gentleman who was the spokesperson for the DA's office for over 20, 25 years and just up and decides that it's time to go, he said in an article. Um, after 25 years. So Linton, let's read the article through first, and it'll explain about David Traub, and then I'll give you a little what's what about him. All right, so David Linton accepted the job for Michael Morrissey. Linton, 63, announced his resignation from the Sun Chronicle this week. He will replace spokesperson David Traub, who is leaving the post he held in the DA's office for more than 25 years. Linton began his career at the Sun Chronicle as a correspondent covering various towns, including Norton and North Attleboro. But his real love and expertise was in crime reporting, a position he took over in the mid 1980s. We will miss David greatly, Sun Chronicle executive editor Craig Borges said Friday night. David was a great reporter who probably knew the court system better than many attorneys. His connections in the field of law enforcement were deep, which led him to break numerous stories. He covered every big crime case in the Sun Chronicle, leadership um, area since the 19 sorry, my eyes suck. The 1980s, including the Attleboro cult case, Aaron Hernandez, the football guy, right? I don't know what his position was. He was in, or what team he played for, but I know he played football. Michelle Carter, who is the girl who she was a teenage girl who um, convinced her teenage boyfriend to get back in the car as he had set it up so that it would um, release all the carbon monoxide into his car to take his own life, and she convinced him. And she was charged in his self deletion because there were texts and phone calls where she made him get back in the car. So yeah, see, he says, what next? Linton said his resignation is bittersweet. I've enjoyed my career at the Sun Chronicle greatly and will miss my coworkers who are my friends, as well as others I have met through my reporting over the years, but this is a new opportunity for me and a new challenge. I've known David Traub for a long time and he's helping me with this transition, which is weird to me also. Linton's final story for the Sun Chronicle, Help in a Time of Crisis, is a page A1 of today's. Oh, okay, whatever. I don't know. I don't read that. But so anyways, that is um, the new DA spokesperson. The In the thumbnail, you can see the person in the middle is David Traub, who is the one who resigned. Seriously, people drive by with their music blasting. It drives me crazy. It's so loud. Sorry about that. I can't control it. All right. So, what was I saying now? David Traub, the one who is resigning from Michael Morrissey's office and had worked there for 25 years. It's odd that he's resigning. Also, like the timing of it is odd too with all of this, but we're finding out, or we will find out, that David Traub might be the individual that was leaking information to some of the X trolls, the Twitter trolls, the social media trolls out there, the Kate Peters of the world that are spreading misinformation about the case to try to influence the jury pool potentially and to change the narrative because the real story, the real evidence proves that Karen didn't do it, but the DA's office is feeding people like Coffindaffer and Kate Peter, like specifically them, along with others, misinformation or lies or whatever they want the spin to be that day. So I think David Traub might be in trouble potentially. So that might be the reason, but I don't think resigning is going to save him at all. And was it forced? Was it a forced resignation? And how come the same day that he resigns, you have somebody lined up for the position? That's why it makes me think it was forced. Something's going on. Either the feds are kind of reining in or what. I don't know. But there's definitely changes afoot because Brian Tully's gone and now David Traub is gone. We got a new spokesperson for Michael Morrissey, this David Linton guy. Very, very, very strange stuff. And if that's not strange enough, let's go on to our third and final topic, which is the Commonwealth is going on a fishing expedition. They basically just want anything they can get their hands on to try to make Karen look guilty. And if they haven't been able to do it through all the evidence that they have at this time, they're not going to be able to do it. But, they're going to try. So, um, we have a couple new motions from the Commonwealth. This first one is Commonwealth's motion for records from Verizon Wireless. Now comes the Commonwealth and respectfully requests this honorable court, pursuant to Mass R. Crim P. 17 and Commonwealth versus Lampron 441, Massachusetts 265, issue a court order to Verizon ordering the keeper of the records of Verizon Wireless to produce the criminal clerk's office of the Norfolk Superior Court 1 subscriber information associated with the Verizon phone number redacted from December 30th through January 30th of 20 oh I'm sorry, December 30th, 2021 through January 30th, 2022, belonging to William Reed. Yes, that's right. Karen's father, Bill Reed. They're going after his cell phone of Dighton, Massachusetts, and two, records for all Verizon transactions, including all call records, call detail records, SMS, text, and MMS records, and all data use records associated with Verizon number redacted belonging to William Reed of Dighton, Massachusetts, for the time period of January 29th, 2022 through January 30th, 2022. What, they think they're just gonna have Karen saying she did something to John? She was freaking out at that time, and but they already have Karen's text messages, so why do they need Bill's? Just doesn't make any sense. Number three, records for all call records and call detail records for the period of December 30th, 2021 through January 30th, 2022. In support of its motion, the Commonwealth states the following. One, on June 9th, 2022, the defendant was indicted by a Norfolk grand jury for second-degree homicide in violation of GL 2651 manslaughter while operating under the influence. Hold on. Sorry, we got a pacing puppy. All right, so, well, he's not really a puppy anymore, but to me, he's always a puppy. All right, so manslaughter, and leaving the scene of personal injury and or loss of life in violation of all these different codes. On January 29th, 2022, the Commonwealth alleges that the Commonwealth alleges that the defendant struck the defendant with her car and caused his loss of life. Okay. She hit herself with her car now. No, I mean, it's not funny. They really should have proofread this and said the decedent, not the defendant there. The defendant returned to the victim's home after striking the victim with her vehicle and leaving him incapacitated in blizzard conditions, according to the Commonwealth. Through the evening and morning of the victim's loss of life, the defendant made numerous calls to various people, providing varying and sometimes conflicting statements about the whereabouts of the victim. You know why it's varying and sometimes conflicting? Because Jen McCabe is creating a story of what Karen Reed said to people and planting false memories into people's brains, and that's why it's different all over the place. It's not Karen who is giving different conflicting statements. It's the people who are basically repeating hearsay of Karen, which you can't necessarily trust that they're telling you the truth, especially if it's coming from John McCabe. The defendant's phone call records identify calls to both William Reed and Janet Reed and texting between William Reed and Karen Reed. The Commonwealth intends on calling William Reed as a witness now. So they're going to call him as a witness to testify to the various admissions made by the defendant to him. Specifically, in the Boston 25 News aired segment, reporter Ted Daniel asks William Reed, during your first discussion with Karen, did she believe she may have hit John? William Reed responded, no, no. She felt she struck something. She said, Dad, I think I struck something. I said, what do you mean, right? This was in the hospital, right? She says, I remember, all right, backing up and hitting something. But that's taken out of context, and she didn't hit a person. Like you hmm, okay. Contrary to that account, the defendant's first discussion with William Reed was not when she was in the hospital. Rather, the first conversation occurred before the defendant was transported from the crime scene. This footnote says the defendant's phone records also detail her outgoing unanswered phone calls to her mother's phone at 1:14 a.m., 4:38 a.m., 4:42 a.m. All three unanswered calls occurred before the defendant left John O'Keefe's and before John O'Keefe was found. So, she called her parents at odd times. She was freaking out. She didn't know what to do because John wasn't coming home. She was expecting him to. He hadn't answered any of her calls. She was getting mad that he wasn't answering. He was supposed to have given her a heads up as to whether he was going into this party or not. And he didn't come back out to let her know if it was okay for them to go in or if he was staying or what. So, yeah, she was kind of upset with him. And then upset turned into worry. So she probably was going through a lot of emotions that night and calling her parents a lot. She's close with them. I don't see the big deal in this. Continuing on, William Reed and the defendant conducted their first call at 6:32 a.m., which lasted 3 minutes and 51 seconds. Medical records note that Karen Reed was admitted to the hospital at 7:26 a.m. An ambulance report notes that responders were dispatched to the scene of the crime to attend to Karen Reed at 6:42 a.m. and arrived at 6:50 a.m. The I can't speak today, sorry. Commonwealth seeks the phone records of William Reed by three separate requests. One, subscriber information associated with the Verizon number redacted belonging to William Reed. Two, records for all Verizon transactions, including all call records, call detail records, SMS, text, and MMS records, and all data use records associated with Verizon phone number redacted belonging to William Reed for the time period of January 29th, 2022 through January 30th, 2022. These records are limited to the immediate time and aftermath of the alleged crime and document the relevant interactions between the parties. The Commonwealth intends to call William Reed as a witness at trial. His phone records are expected to be introduced substantively to prove the defendant's phone calls to him in the time preceding her alleged striking of the victim. Also, William Reed's phone records must be made available to use as potential impeachment evidence depending on the testimony. Finally, the Commonwealth requests all call records and call detail records for the period of December 30th, 2021 through January 30th, 2022. Notably, the time scope of this request is broader and extends beyond the evening of the alleged criminal activity. However, the content of the request is much narrower and strictly limited to what is relevant. So, they're like, we know this is a long time frame that we're asking for, but we're just asking for a limited topic or whatever that they're looking for. The limited request is made to best protect William Reed's privacy rights, particularly as to his SMS text and MMS records and data use for the time before the alleged crime. The relevance of this request is to compare the timing and frequency of Karen Reed's calls to her father on the night of the victim's loss of life as compared to the frequency of lack thereof on dates not involving this alleged crime. Wait, let me read that. The relevance of this request is to compare the timing and frequency of her calls to her father on that night compared to other nights. So did she call her father? This is okay. So basically, they're asking, we just want to look at her records to see if she ever called her parents at 1 or 3 in the morning before. But here's my argument, my counter argument to that. Well, John never died another night before. So why would, she didn't have this emergency experience with John not being at home. She didn't have that where, I don't know. She might talk to her parents at all hours of the night and maybe it proves nothing. But it still proves nothing to me because she was in a panic. He wasn't answering. She didn't know what to do. She wanted to leave the house. She had John's daughter there or niece. Um, and the nephew was staying at a friend's house that night, so it was just the niece. But still, she didn't want to leave the niece home alone and have the niece wake up with no adult in the house. So she didn't know what to do in that situation. That's why she was calling her parents. All right, so number 6. It is possible that William Reed may be an adverse witness to the Commonwealth. A review of William Reed's, you think? You think he's going to want to give you any kind of information that might help you lock up his and frame his innocent daughter? No. A review of William Reed's media statements and conduct at court hearings, and other public engagements relative to this case show that William Reed is hostile to the Commonwealth's position regarding his daughter. Yeah, because you guys framed her. The records are reasonably likely to establish a lack of pattern or common occurrence between the defendant, a 44-year-old woman regularly calling her parents in the middle of the night after consuming large quantities of alcohol and engaging in a domestic dispute with her boyfriend. Wow, like I'm at a loss of words right now. Like this is just when you think they can't stoop any lower, they're going after this poor man's cell phone for what? He didn't do anything, and it's not going to they're not going to find anything that's going to incriminate Karen. The records, while likely only relevant for impeachment if necessary, would be unattainable during trial or would cause a significant delay in trial, and prudent preparation requires acquisition of the record. So give it to us now so we can just be prepared for trial so we can impeach him with anything he says. That's what they want. The records are not otherwise procurable reasonably in advance of trial, as they are not held in the care, custody, or control of the Commonwealth or the defendant, and the entity will not produce the records without a court order. The Commonwealth cannot properly prepare for trial without each production and inspection in advance of trial, and the failure to obtain such inspection may tend unreasonably to delay the trial. An affidavit in support of this motion is attached. For the above stated reasons, this motion should be allowed. So that's their argument for that. And now they also want any records of off the record comments made by Karen to Boston 25. You can't make this stuff up and it just gets lower and lower, the Commonwealth. Now comes the Commonwealth and respectfully requests this honorable court, pursuant to Mass R. Crim P. 17 and Commonwealth versus Lampron, issue a court order to keeper of records, Boston 25, ordering the keepers of the records of WFXT 20 TV Boston 25 to produce to the criminal clerk's office of Norfolk Superior Court all written or recorded statements of William Reed, Janet Reed, and Nathan Reed, including all video recordings and any interview notes or memorialized statements made or adopted by William Reed, Janet Reed, or Nathan Reed. In support of its motion, the Commonwealth states the following. On June 9th, 2022, the defendant was indicted by a Norfolk grand jury for second-degree homicide, manslaughter while operating under the influence, and leaving the scene of a personal injury or loss of life. On August 7th, 2023, Boston 25 News aired a 5-minute and 40-second segment entitled Parents of Karen Reed, Woman Charged in Boston Officer's Death. My Daughter Will Be Free, which featured reporter Ted Daniel interviewing the defendant's parents William and Janet Reed, and the defendant's brother Nathan Reed. To me, this is just basically them overreaching their prosecutorial power again, trying to get sources and information from adversarial news sources, because Boston 25, Ted Daniels, has not reported the DA's office in a good light. He's been on this story a lot longer than others have in the Boston, in like the main news area, like the mainstream news. What I mean. So he's really been on top of it, and he hasn't portrayed the DA very favorably. So is this just like trying to get back at both of them because he's going after all their records? I don't know. The defendant's father, William Reed, claimed that an unnamed, unidentified, and uncertain culprit somehow caused John O'Keefe's injuries. William Reed sponsored the baseless claim that John O'Keefe entered the house. It's not a baseless claim. It's not a baseless claim. Are you people insane? It's not a baseless claim that he went into the house. It just gets me so angry when I see them say like word things like that. Anyways, so he's saying William Reed sponsored the baseless claim that John O'Keefe entered the house and was sucker punched. A fight ensued, and he was overwhelmed, which I also think is what happened. The unaired statements made by the Reeds are relevant and material to put the relevant aired statements, some which will be introduced at trial, in context. Further, the absence of details provided in the unaired footage is fertile ground for examination of witnesses at trial. So he says. I don't know if that's true or not, but importantly, in the aired segment, Ted Daniels asks William Reed, during your first discussion with Karen, did she believe that she may have hit John? William Reed responded, no, no. She felt she struck something. She said, Dad, I think I struck something. I said, what do you mean? Right, this was in the hospital, right? She says, I remember, all right, backing up and hitting something. Again, so again, sorry, I had to pause for a second. So he, she said she hit something, but she knew she had hit or had done something to her tail light. I don't know if a light came on or what happens with the Lexus. Does it like do you get a light on your dashboard to let you know that your tail light's out? I don't know. I've never owned a Lexus. Um, but so she knew something happened to her tail light because she had to have seen it or something at some point. She felt it, she saw it. So I don't understand what the confusion is. Anyways, number 6, the defendant's first discussion with William Reed was not when she was in the hospital. Rather, the first conversation occurred before the defendant was transported from the crime scene. The defendant's phone records detail her outgoing unanswered phone calls to her mother. We read this already, did we not? Or this was in the other filing, so they're just repeating themselves. Sorry. All right, so William Reed and the defendant conducted their first call at 6:32 a.m., which lasted 3 minutes and 51 seconds. Medical records note that Karen Reed was admitted to the hospital at 7:26 a.m. An ambulance report notes that first responders were dispatched to the scene. Okay, I feel like we're just reading the same things. Statements made by the defendant to William Reed regarding the timing of the damage to her taillight is extremely relevant and material evidence that will be introduced at trial. The defendant's admission of being involved in a collision directly relate to the Commonwealth's theory at trial. Additionally, the footage will help demonstrate whether there are any classifying statements relative to William Reed's first discussion with Karen Reed and her statements about hitting something. So that's what they're trying to get at is that conversation when she told her dad that she damaged her taillight. William Reed and Nathan are expected witnesses at trial. So they're going to call William and Nathan Reed, her brother. For what? For what purpose? I don't understand. Um, then they should be able to call the defense should be able to call Michael Morrissey. They should be able to call whoever the hell they want now too. The defendant's second trial is scheduled to begin on January 27th, 2025. Discussion under Massachusetts law, it is well settled that news reporters do not have a constitutionally based testimonial privilege that other citizens do not have. See matter of John Doe grand jury investigation. In Massachusetts, there is no qualified journalist privilege that protects against disclosure of confidential and non confidential press materials. There absolutely should be. And why there isn't? What is wrong with you, Massachusetts? Even if such privilege did exist, parties seeking disclosure of non confidential materials are entitled to seek discovery from a media entity if they can show that the materials at issue are of likely relevance to a significant issue in the case and are not reasonably obtainable from other available sources. But you have to prove that there's relevant material there, and you're going on a fishing expedition for both of these things. So it's crazy. All right, so the records are not otherwise procurable reasonably in advance of trial, as they are not held in the care, custody, or control of the Commonwealth or the defendant, and the entity will not produce the records without a court order. The Commonwealth cannot properly prepare for trial without such production and inspection in advance of trial, and the failure to obtain such inspection may tend unreasonably to delay the trial. The Commonwealth expects to introduce the records at trial. How many times do they have to say trial in one paragraph? So they want to introduce them as evidence of the charges against the defendant. Furthermore, the defendant is entitled to review these records in their entirety prior to trial. The recorded statements occurring approximately 8 months before the first trial are probative to establish the witness's best memory of the events, best memory of the defendant's statements, and occurred without the outside influence of time or trial testimonies. An affidavit in support of the motion is attached. Oh, I don't have that. But that's the motion for um, all the Boston 25 records, all their notes and everything that they have on Karen Reed, Bill Reed, Janet Reed, Nathan Reed, the whole family. It's ridiculous. Yeah. They tried this with Gretchen Voss pre-trial. They tried to get some journal uh should journalist, I don't know, a reporter. They tried to get somebody's notes and it was denied. So, I don't know how good of a chance they might get, but considering it's Canoni, you never know. She loves to rule in favor of the Commonwealth and help them out as much as she possibly can. So she might just say, give all the evidence over because we didn't get her on the first time, so let's get her the second time, is what I'm thinking they're going to try to pull. If it even gets that far, because Tully's gone, Proctor's gone, David Traub, the spokesperson's gone. Um, Yuri Buchanan's under investigation. Fanning's going to be under investigation for Sandra Birchmore, likely if he isn't, that we don't know of yet. Um, there's just a lot of people at play that are very questionable in this case. And I just hope that talking about this more and more and shining the light on this is going to shine a light and disinfect all of the darkness in Massachusetts that is surrounding law enforcement and the state of the Commonwealth. Yeah, the people of Massachusetts need to take their state back. The people of this country need to take their country back, and we need to do it. We need to do it at the polls, and we need to do it by protesting, by speaking up, by holding our representatives accountable, by making them reevaluate and look at our statutes that are potentially unconstitutional, like their witness intimidation statute. Those are things that, why does it exist? If it's just going to be used to weaponize and criminalize everyday normal things that, a everyday journalist slash activist can do in any other state except Massachusetts. It's just a shame. It's a shame what's going on in Massachusetts. It's also a shame that it's happening everywhere, unfortunately. It's not just Massachusetts, but we are here. This is one of the worst possible cases of corruption and cover up probably ever. Um, and we need to keep talking about it so that we can finally get justice for John O'Keefe, because going after the wrong person for his homicide is not justice. Actual justice will be had when Karen is acquitted of all of these charges and Brian Albert, John McCabe, Colin Albert, Brian Higgins, all of those individuals in the House that night are held accountable for their lies and any other part that they had in the events that took place that night. And I think we're finally starting to head in that right direction now that Tully's out and David Traub has seen the writing on the wall, um, or was told that the writing was on the wall. I don't know. Either way, things are getting shaken up there, and maybe it's for good things coming on the horizon. Hopefully for Karen, hopefully for Turtle Boy, and hopefully for the people of Massachusetts and all the people that are being charged with witness intimidation for leaving a little rubber ducky somewhere or taking part in a protest or whatever they did. Hopefully now uh, we start to rectify all the wrongs that have been going on recently, and we still got to get to Justin Root and Sandra Birchmore and all the others that have not seen the justice that they deserve in Massachusetts. I feel like I'm a spokesperson for Massachusetts, even though I've never stepped foot in the state. But I love it. I love you guys, and I just really want good things for you. So, um, Thank you guys so much for watching and take care. I will see you guys in the next one. And please hit that like button on your way out. Thanks, guys. Bye.